Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Alf Poor, CEO of Nasdaq-listed Ideanomics, to discuss the challenges and opportunities with the move to zero emissions and what that represents. Al, it's great to meet with you. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And the new federal administration is pushing a great narrative for electric and made in America. How does Ideanomics' business model of S2F2C play a role, starting with an explanation of what that is?
That's a really great question. S2F2C stands for sales to financing to charging. It's a model we developed originally in China. We're now bringing out to our other markets. And really it's one about helping enable commercial fleet operators to move their vehicles away from internal combustion engines and heavy use of diesel and over into clean emission electric vehicles. And the reason we call it S2F2C is these are the three key components that any commercial fleet operator needs to consider. The first one, sales, that's the vehicle procurement. Which vehicles do I need for my fleet? What do they cost? What are the rebates, etc.? Secondly, the financing, how do I finance these vehicles? And thirdly, the charging, what type of energy products do I need to keep my fleets powered up and on the road?
What are the two immediate obstacles?
First one, advocacy and education. A lot of commercial fleet operators out there asking a lot of questions, don't have a lot of information to go to outside of the product companies that are in the space. So a big part of what we're doing for them is really providing a guiding rail under our S2F2C model to help them understand the industry. And the second one is the financing. Financing EV fleets is very different to financing the big diesel fleets that have been moving everything from deliveries to freight throughout America for the last 50 years. And there's a different way it works. Many of the traditional auto leasing companies are not in the space yet. They're still figuring it out. So that's a big part of what the current challenges are.
And battery costs are dropping significantly year over year as the battery technologies continue to develop further. How does this benefit Wave, the wireless charger provider Ideanomics announced in January it is acquiring?
Yeah, so there's two answers to this question. First of all, in terms of Wave, as the cost of batteries comes down, that obviously allows increased and accelerated adoption of EVs, which is very important because that allows Wave to sell obviously more of its systems. What you see currently is an EV vehicle does cost more than its diesel or gasoline powered counterpart. But as and that's for two reasons. One, the battery technology until now has been expensive, but the density in the batteries and the capabilities of the batteries are getting better and cheaper every year. And the second part of it is really around the battery management system that keeps the cost high as well. We're seeing both of those technologies as the market grows come down in cost. So we're getting much closer to where an EV vehicle will cost the same as a diesel or a gasoline powered vehicle. And that's when I think you're going to see the big fleet operators coming and saying, well, cable doesn't really work for me. So what about wireless charging systems that are much smarter, like Wave?
Are you seeing challenges to tractor EV adoption at scale? And what solutions are Ideanomics positioned to provide?
Yeah, obviously we have an investment in SelecTrak, which is a California-based EV tractor company. The biggest issue again goes back to advocacy and education. Tractors and agriculture, more than typical commercial vehicle use, is an absolute slam dunk for EV. The farms can put a solar array on a barn or another outbuilding that can cover all of their energy needs. And right now, tractors can't go to the pump and fill up gas. They're not vehicles that you typically see on the road. So the energy needs to be brought to the farm. So that means twice as much energy is being used. One is bringing the energy to the farm, and then there's a consumption of the fossil fuels to power the tractors. You can do everything with EV and a solar array. So there's no need for a farm except for the hyperscale farms that you see for mass food production. There's no need for a farm to be running on diesel tractors anymore. It's an education thing. We'll be doing a lot in terms of education and advocacy with the SelecTrak team this year to make sure that farmers understand that clean energy is the cheapest way for them to power their farms.
And Alf, how do you hope to partner with utilities and states to find the right balance of private versus public investment?
Yeah, this is a really, really important piece of the puzzle. And, we're very pleased to see the narrative coming out of the Biden administration. But we really do need the utilities, which in America, as we know, they've been very shy to invest in infrastructure. We have legacy infrastructure. We've seen that, so recently with the tragic events down in Texas. The fact that we have the capability to produce clean energy and do battery storage in homes and for businesses, not just for electric vehicles. It's a terrible thing that one of the most sun-drenched states in the country, Texas, was without power. It doesn't need to be. All the technology, it's low cost, is there. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to start to work hand in hand with the utilities, bring in that private capital to help them make sensible joint investments along with government programs so that we can solve this problem, because right now the grid can't cope with the adoption of EV at the rapid pace it's changing. So some significant investment needs to be made, and the private sector is prepared to help.
Alf, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.